Let's play some chess. We're trying to get to 1600. And we're facing 1e4. Going normal king's knight. I'm going to stick with the Kruger repertoire, obviously. And we have a Ponziani. Alright, so what we do is we play f5. This is the Ponziani counter gambit. I don't know how well I do, but the Ponziani is not the most common move here. But you can see the point of it. It's kind of like in the Alpine Sicilian. You want to support d4, and there's also ideas of bringing the queen out as well, maybe. But this is, like everything else, hello Jensen, designed to throw white off his stool as early on as possible. So please take the pawn. If they take the pawn, and this is the same in the Russo, it's the same in the Danish, it's same in the. It's not the same in the Kruger anti-Scotch. Okay, so here we go. Zip diddly bit. Here we go. Okay, and this is a common pattern. So now we play Queen e7. Because what white has done with that move is actually pinned this pawn, and what we've done is gone unpin. You are now unpinned. The knight is now again on prise, because previously we couldn't legally take the knight, because we'd have put the king in check, and you're not allowed to do that. So we break the pin, also developing a piece at the same time. In fact, it's possible that bishop e7 could have done a similar thing, but that just loses a piece. Just loses a piece outright. He forgot to note that I'd broken the pin. Now what we're going to have, queen takes here. I'm thinking maybe knight takes, prevent that pawn from encroaching. Sorry, knight f6. I might even play knight e5 to hit the queen. And, okay, don't do this. Okay? So you screw up, and your response to screwing up is to start lashing out and throwing punches, right? If you've just been dealt a blow to the head in a boxing match, right? What you need to do is slow everything down and try not to get hit anymore, if you can. Okay, so I'm going to take you with the bishop. Why? Because my knight still has a route out to the board. If I'd taken there with the knight, then my bishop would have been blocked on both of these squares, so I don't want that to happen. Also got this as a potential threat. If he takes, oh no, tripled pawns. Okay. By the way, if you can spot the song where hit little bit, here we go, comes from, full marks, gold star, ain't gonna happen. And I'll give you a clue, it's recent, it's like in the last year or so, year or two. And it's a bluegrass song. There you go, that's enough clues, that's enough clues. But he's already in a world of pain now. A world of pain. Okay. Knight f6 hits this pawn. If knight exit f6 and pushes, I can come here. Is there any reason to do that? No. Okay. So, a situation like this, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at, we are up in material, lads. We are up in material. Okay. We've got two bishops, we've got two knights. Opponent only has one knight and the queens are off the board. Therefore, king security becomes less of a problem, right? Having said that, there are still many, many pieces around that could potentially harass our king. So could our king get caught in a mating net at some point? Yes, absolutely could. Absolutely doodly. So what do we want to do? Well, I'm thinking maybe something just simple like this. Right, so getting the king to safety ain't necessarily my priority, but activating my rooks is. So that's why I might castle. So I'm thinking that bishop b7 could defend this pawn. This pawn is a bone in the throat, right? It's deep down my opponent's throat. Okay. Now, I'm half inclined to do this, but I think d6 might just be the simplest option. Here in if taketh, we've got silly double pawns, but then we've got more pieces. But I don't see a really good argument against d6. Might play h6, bishop g5, maybe something like this. h6 also de-encourages this move, potentially. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to say take the pawn. Then I might just move the knight out the way. And then we've got a he's got an issue there. You know, I'm going to force material off the board. This is all I dream about. This is all I want. I just want to trade knights for bishops and bishops for knights, and knights for knights and bishops for bishops, and just waddle into the end game, clutching my extra piece and saying thank you very much. This is also an idea, doing a similar thing, right? Just pieces in alignment. Here he's got the knight and the rook there. Okay, now this is also a thought. I should consider this. If bishop takes, I take the bishop. I might lose a pawn, but then he loses a rook. Knight here. If knight takes, he loses a rook. If nothing happens, I can win a pawn. Can't win that one. That's out of bounds. But this one is maybe in bounds, right? But more than anything else, I'm attacking the knight. So he might defend the knight. Doesn't matter. I'll take it. You recapture. I win a piece all the same. Then your rook. Do you know what I mean? And this is just the luxury of having more junk available than my opponent does. And my opponent is rated 1494 at the start of the game. And this is why we all have to slow down, particularly in the opening phase, right? You think you know what's going on in the opening phase, maybe you don't. Okay, what do? Do I take the bishop or do I take the knight? Well, it's easy. No, I don't know the answer. We calculate it. I take the bishop, he takes pawn, I take the rook. Okay, so he's not going to take the pawn. I take the bishop. And I'm +1. I take the knight, he takes the pawn, I take the rook, he takes the rook. Okay, I've won a rook and a knight. He's won a rook and a pawn. So here I'm +3. Here I'm +2. But we've got more junk off the board. Interesting. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bishop because it's better in terms of de-junking, decluttering the board. I might want to do this, but the point is now this knight's actually pinned anyway. So he's going to have to do this. In which case I think I might just develop, you know. I'm only one pawn up right now. He's had two of my pawns. But I've got two bishops. And with my extra piece, I think I will be able to go around mopping up pawns later on. Particularly, seeing as they are randomly distributed around the board right now. They're not in a particularly good state. You can't castle or anything. Why you're thinking so hard, I really don't know, because there's only actually two moves. Moving the rook doesn't work because you lose the knight. Moving the knight doesn't work because you can't move it with check, and that's the only way that you could possibly get out of this pin. It's a pin because we've got a lower value piece in front of and in line with a higher value piece. Meaning if the lower piece should move, then the higher value piece falls. Therefore the lower value piece really can't move. That's what a pin is. I mean, it can move, legally it can move, but it's going to be detrimental if it does. Now he might try something like this. I take this, and then, you know, he could have come in here if I castle. That's definitely a possibility. I'm thinking of maybe just castling now, because it's still pinned. It's going nowhere, bruv. I might even have this idea, but I think let's get the rook involved. Let's get the rook into the game. I've got this. If he takes, I just take that. It's still on. He can't really. Well, he can technically castle that way because he's not going through check if he goes that way. Knight f6. Am I worried about f5? No, I'll probably just wheedle my knight into his position, you know. I'm only one pawn up, seeing as I've got an extra bishop. I've got an extra dark squared bishop. He's got one extra pawn, but his pawns are not beautiful. I also have an isolated e-pawn, by the way. So I might want to think about this. So I'm attacking the pawn. If the pawn should advance, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to go to g4 anyway because I threaten this. If this rook moves, let's say this rook comes to here. So here, knight is on here. Let's say rook hf1. I might take out the knight, leaving us with opposite coloured bishops, but I have an extra horse. I'm not sure about that. Is this a thought? Takes, trades, maybe probably rook takes, you know. But this is an exercise in trying to convert what is essentially a winning position. In a blitz game, I'd probably pre-move knight g4. Because even if he pushes forwards, I think this is the idea. Also, he's moving the knight is a discovered attack by the bishop on that pawn on g5. And look at this, he's down to 10 minutes. Let's look at his mistake again, right? This. How long did he think about that? 19 seconds. That's all he thought. Okay, well, it's a good job I didn't pre-move anything, isn't it? 19 seconds, and now he's had to spend 3 minutes more than me on his deliberations regarding all of that. Okay, so what have we got? Yes, I could trade another minor piece off. I'd love to put my knight here, actually. I think that's a really jolly good square for a knight to go on. It's defended by a pawn, but the pawn itself is not necessarily, you know, rock solid, is it? Rook he8 could be a move. It helps defend the pawn. This is a move. Attacks this, right? If this, I do not mind. However, the problem is, this pawn's actually hanging, isn't it? Here. Pawn takes. Yeah. Pawn takes will probably trade the rooks off, win the pawn back, attacking this. Do you know what I mean? So all I need to do is prove that having this extra bishop, I now have the bishop pair. Opponent has no bishop pair. I probably want to keep the bishop pair. Why? Because all the pawns on the board are mobile. Right? We could have pawns running around all over the place, little tiny tots. You take that, I'm going to take. You have to recapture one way or another. I'm going to recapture the pawn. And I'm just going to be shooting fish in a barrel, I hope. Unless my opponent really doubles down and uses all his remaining 9.5 minutes to find some way to coordinate all of his stuff, you know. Okay. This is an attempt at a counter. I get it. He wants to come in here and hit both of my rooks. I could play rook f8, right? He can't capture here because my knight defends, so rook hf8 looks fine. And that's what I'm going to do. Walking into another fork, which would not have been the case if I played rook df8. Having said that, I can just counter with this. Counter-attacking his bishop, right? That was just silly. That was me spending less than 20 seconds on a move and getting all gung-ho because I'm showing off to you because I'm winning. Look at me, I'm winning a game. Yeah, hold my beer. See, after he does this, either way, he's actually restored material equality. And then if he takes the pawn, but in fact what happens is if he takes a rook now, I take the bishop. So what he's got to do is he's got to retreat the bishop. That doesn't work, so I take. That, I'm kicking myself a little bit. That, I might even play this and hit his rook. And if he takes here, I take, then he can take one of my rooks, but not the other one. Does that make sense? Here I go here. here is a blunder. It just loses the bishop. And I'm still going to end up with 2 bishops. Which together, my lord Sauron, we will rule all of Middle-earth. Okay, now I can attack the rook. What's he going to do? Rook up. There. I give up an exchange, but I get the bishop pair. There. If he takes this rook, I take this rook. I think I take the bishop. I think I do. Or I could do this, hitting the rook outright. There. If he takes back, this rook escapes. Right, I've given up the exchange on my terms, and I've removed his other bishop. Question is his bishop better than his knight? Doesn't really massively matter. Here, he takes my rook, I take his rook, he takes my rook. I take his knight, because that rook is still defended. Either rook is still defended. Or, I come here and hit his rook. He takes a rook, I take a rook. He takes a minor piece, I take a minor piece. And that's equal. Here, he moves his rook. But then if I take this bishop, rook takes. Okay, I see no benefit. I'm going to take there. Now you have a decision to make. Which rook are you going to have? You can only have one of them, because I'm only giving you one turn. In fact, if this rook... Ooh, hello. I can counter. I can counter a couple of ways. Now he is plus 1 pawn right now, because he's got 7 pawns and I've only got 5. Got 1 rook and 3 minor pieces. Oh, it's very complicated mathematically. So this hits the rook, right? You take my rook, I'll take yours back. And I still have the bishop pair. But no rooks. Or I can go here, which is it's the same kind of thing basically. Either way, whichever way I go, he's got a decision to make. I don't think it really matters, you know. Don't think it does. Don't think it does. He's got 1 check, but then we just trade off. And I'm better, because I'm left with 3 minor pieces, he's left with 1 rook. So the check doesn't work. If he takes here, I'll take here. Attacking this once. If he does anything else, I'm just going to take the rook. So let's say the rook moves. Right, I save my rook. And we fight on. This might be an idea, but first of all I have to save the rook, which is probably going to come here. Because it's an open file. There's no pawns on this file, right? No pawns of either colour. Open file. That's where rook is happiest. Problem is, actually, he's also looking at g7. So I might even have to play rook g8, which is a pain. But cannot tell you how many games have been lost because of complacency in a strong position. Cannot begin to impress on you. Sovereign importance of punctuality. And he just moves. Okay, do I just go here then? Or do I just counterattack? I counterattack. No, that doesn't work. I counterattack. He takes my rook, I take his rook, he takes my bishop. I take his knight. Kind of works. Kind of works. I think the easiest thing is this. And I still have this as an idea, but maybe not with a knight there, I don't know. I also have, no, that hangs the bishop. Maybe he's thinking about this. This I just take here. You take, I take, then he takes here. Urgh. That is annoying, actually. Oh, I don't think that is the preferable option. Okay, he's attacking an undefended pawn. I can counterattack his rook, though. Then rook takes, knight takes, knight takes. He's won two minus for a rook, which is not great. So, I think what I need to do is I need to keep both bishops on the board. My problem is, if I move this guy, this one's actually undefended. Come here. Rook takes. Just doesn't work. Go here. Rook takes. I take. Knight takes. I can't even capture on f2 because knight's going to defend it. What have I done wrong here? He takes. I lose a piece. Can I move my bishop with any kind of threat? Not really, because most of his stuff's on dark squares. If I come here, he takes this bishop. Here, knight takes, rook takes, bishop here with check. That's all I can think of. Knight takes first, I take. Rook takes, I have a check after the rook moves. See, I think that was 1 minute 45 well spent. And now do you see it? I think he's seen it. He can't take the knight. He's still +1 material. This is true. I'm attacking this pawn, though, which would settle the score. This as well is a reasonable outpost. It's not actually an outpost because the pawn can hit it, but it's a stopover. And he realises he can't take this. He just loses material if he does that. But in fact, then the rook comes back here to block the check. I take, take. And I think we're then in an equal endgame with a king and a rook each and 5 pawns. I don't have any other check with the bishop. That's my only check with the bishop. That's the problem. Then he goes back. But we will be in an endgame where he's down 3 minutes on the clock as well. Okay, so takes here. He's in check, so he can't take my rook. Okay, takes here. Rook goes back to e3. I take with check. Pawn must take. My rook takes. Okay, so I'm going to have a rook on here. His pawns are going to be. This is what he's going to have left, right? My rook's going to be there, and I'm going to have these left. Takes. There. And my rook is on that square, okay? And these are all. This is my pieces. So that's the situation that we're going to have. This is what you need to be like practicing, visualizing at the end of a flurry of activity. But I do feel like it wasn't that I was out thunk, it's that I was casual. The other threat, if he does nothing, I'm simply going to pin the rook as well. Then you see, again, lower value piece in front of higher value piece. So I think he's got to take, really. Whatever happens, I do this. Okay, he has... He's failed to take. This is interesting. Okay. But he does he not walk into another pin? pieces of equal value, but they're both of higher value than the attacker. Therefore, it doesn't matter what he does. Here, I'm attacking both rooks. There's no check. If he takes the knight, I just take. I win the exchange, and I'm still attacking this rook. All right, and I've probably gone to win. That's definitely a good position for me, because I have an extra bishop. And the extra bishop, with pawns on both sides of the board, so my bishop's able to zip around the board very quickly, will be a distinct advantage. Also, my bishop can maybe like defend a whole group of pawns, whereas rooks, I mean, rooks are good defensive as well, but yeah, I don't think he thought what's my opponent's best move here. It's hard to say what the value of that move was. Well, no, it isn't. I mean, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking this. It prevents that, and he's right. But, you know, I didn't notice this either, to be fair. If I was playing 75 minutes over the board, maybe I woulda, coulda, and shoulda. Okay, so now I can take this with check. And that is a zero-brainer, okay? My knight's under attack. Now I can move my knight back to d6, defending the rook. And that's probably a splendid idea. If we trade off rooks, I'm going to be 2 pawns down, but I've got a knight. Or I try and press up, improve my king. These pawns come forward. Here he might give check. I think I'm going to press up. I think just getting my pawns moving just a little. Let's just hold this tension just for a while. Right? If I get my king up to say, you know, here, you never know. I don't want him to get to here. So maybe getting my king on c6, and then I might carry out this move. Right? So what have I done? I've got a pawn up the board. I've got a king up the board. There may be opportunities to move with check. You know, he does this, I might move with check, and then, well, you know, I take the rook, take the pawn. Okay. Now this actually, so here also hits the pawn, right? Here he trades, I win back. I've got 2 on 4 on the king side here, but I've got a horse. And the 3 on 3 with a king each should be able to hold that. So I think I'm just going to push my king up. I'm still reserving the right to do this. He's not attacking the knight. He can't attack the knight any other way unless he brings his king in. Now, if he does this, I still then have this, but he's now improving his king. So I think it's time to pull the trigger now. And his rook is also undefended, so he either has to move it or he trades it. And he's down to 3 minutes. I have 7.5. I mean, if king defends, that's just losing, because he recaptures and I take his pawn with check. Then I've got 3 on 2 on the king side and an extra horse. Am I 100% confident about this against 2 extra pawns on this side of the board? No. Because I have an incredible ability to bugger up endgames. This would be a blunder, of course, because knight takes and wins the rook outright. 2 minutes 20 now, okay. There we go. Now, if he starts carelessly throwing pawns up the board, I have time to think this through a little bit more. I'm kind of inclined to push h6. Then maybe put my knight on here. h6, then he pushes, that's... But my other hunch is just centralize the king. That's a very kind of instinctive, natural thing to want to do. And I reckon that, you know, let's say I trade 2 of my pawns for two of these pawns. My knight's going to be able to blockade one of them and probably guard the other one. Okay. Knight in here. Happy, happy days. Right, neutralizes 2 pawns at once and covers a bunch of squares. Okay, here pushes knight in there. What's not to like? Unless he does this. Oh, you surprised me. Takes. One of these pawns will take. Fascinating. There, if he pushes here, I push, and I've blocked off a bunch of his pawns. No, I need my knight to be. If I take, he's going to take with his double one, obviously. So he's going to have pawns like this, and this guy's gone. So he's got trip pawns. If I push, that's okay. Push there, knight there. I think pushing looks better for me. Pushing looks better. That's my hunch. Now he has to think on his time. The king now can't come in through that hole. I want my king to be able to come in as well. Like somewhere like here where it prevents this is a key square, right? Because this king can't come in that way. Okay, interesting. Oh, it's getting interesting. I think I felt like I needed to move my king, but then I don't like this. Takes. I'm just giving up a pawn. Here, and his king just presses in, and I've changed nothing. Let's say I swing my knight around the wrong way. Push, takes, king here. I'm going to try and block. My knight will come back into the action. Takes, king here. He can't then come into these squares. I'm going to get to f7. Another thought is to go after these pawns, but I think his weight of pawns on this side is he can just bully his way through if I don't have my knight around to help. So I don't think that's conceivably playable. Takes. I might even bring my knight here, bring it here. It'd be lovely to have it on a square it defends that as well. Okay, I'm taking. If he pushes, I have knight e6 covering that. And then my king can come round. Or come to here. So I think he takes. If he takes, it's... Oh, really? Right, I have to take that pawn. He takes back. I'm going to lose another pawn. He's taking it with a pawn. Interesting. Right, I can't stop his king from coming there. But what if I do knight here? If his king comes here, I have that defending the pawn and blocking his pawn. And with check, right? King here, if he pushes, I bring my king down. So I think it is knight there. 1 minute 50. Oh, interesting endgame stuff. I really should have been a bit more careful in that middle game. Okay, now this. But then the king's going to come back there, right? What if I just give up this pawn? Here, takes, here, king down. I'm always guarding that. Here, comes there. takes, check. Can't go back here. I don't know. At this point, I would give up my knight and my pawn for both of these pawns. The reason is that my king has the inside line to snaffle these pawns up and convert on that side of the board. But I do not know what to do here. There, he's just going to take. He's going to push this pawn down. So I think my knight has to guard that square, but his king's going to come back here. Okay. We might end up repeating a little bit here, but I do have 5 minutes still, nearly. I think he has to do that. He might just try this. There we go. He can't take though. Here. If I take, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's too many moves. 1, 2, 3. But he'll get this in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 moves to promotion. There. I feel like I have to take the pawn because he's got this. I don't think there's anything else that can be done here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have to block his king. So here I go here. Now all he needs to do is just head over this way and eat my pawns. So I would say this is a losing position. It absolutely is a losing position. Yeah, +4 for white. Let's have a look. So, good sobering lesson that. I'm sober anyway, but good sobering lesson. Jesus Christ on a stick. He was winning at this point. That is a blunder. We know that was a blunder because of this. Wow. And I lost some time there. Well, that's a tricky one to find. And then he played like a beast, but there was an opportunity here. Okay, so here I did the wrong thing. And this is very, very insightful. Wow. So I did that, and that's losing. And this isn't losing. And that just goes to show. So look at this. Okay, enough. I've blockaded. Oh my lord. And this is the depth that the computer goes to, man. Ah, that was threatening a royal fork if he promoted. That was funny. Okay, well, if you're Stockfish, you can turn that into a winning position. Now I'm guarding the promotion square, but if you're human and not a grandmaster, that was tough. That was really tough. And frankly, but here again, I'm better. I should not have pushed that pawn. Just bring the king back. And this takes heavyweight calculation. You push the here, yeah, I just didn't need to hold 5. But anyway, thought that's useful. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and see you later.